So my co-founder and I were sitting around the other day, and we got serious, as we sometimes do. And he asked me why I do 1 month. Like, with all the ups and downs and all the stress and craziness and uncertainty about any of it, why do I do it? And it got me thinking about what it is that I get out of running a startup. And I wonder if it's the same for other people. It's certainly not because I'm trying to make a lot of money. I think that if I were trying to make a lot of money, there's definitely other things that I would be doing, other businesses that I'd be pursuing. Yeah, there's always the potential to make a lot of money when you're running a startup. And it's a pipe dream that's there when you're running your company. It's cool to see with successive rounds of funding or valuation how your net worth on paper at least goes up. I can call myself a millionaire on paper. But in the back of your mind, you always know that doesn't mean anything unless you're successful. And 90% of startups fail. And that paper value ends up meaning nothing. It's not the most stable thing to be doing. So why do I do it? Okay. The first thing that came to mind was kind of a selfish reason. I run this because I love doing what I'm doing right now. Right now, in the moment, with all of the stress, with all of the uncertainty, with all of the anxiety of trying to find product market fit and trying to figure out, where we're going to be focusing and where we can get traction and all of these problems. And I get such immense satisfaction from constantly having a new problem to solve. Maybe it's the desire to escape boredom at all costs. The idea of boredom scares the shit out of me. The idea that you come into work every day and are working on the same thing, and it's no longer challenging and it's no longer interesting, and the nature of the role no longer changes, and you just do it so that you can buy a nicer house or go on vacation. You're just waiting for that vacation. That lifestyle is so foreign to me. I can't even handle it. Instead, I think of a startup as playing a role of building the life that I really want to be living. And I can't see any other way of doing that besides working at a startup. And what that means, the life I really want to be living, what it means is a life in which I'm constantly learning, constantly being faced with a new challenge. And then I get to achieve that, and I get to conquer that challenge. And I get the feeling like, I know what I'm doing. And then, sometimes you're underwater, of course, but the more confidence you build in your ability to deal with uncertain situations, the less scary it seems each time. And the more you're willing to just kind of throw yourself into the abyss and trust yourself in knowing that you could solve the problem. It's kind of like improvisational comedy, which is something that I also do as a hobby. And you go on stage and you kind of just, you make it up. There are no lines written for you. You're with a stranger or someone else on your team, and you go and you make up your characters and you make up your scene. And you really, the art of it is not about, like coming up with all these scenes in advance or like knowing all the different situations you can be in. But it's about trusting yourself to know that you can throw yourself into this crazy, uncertain situation and know that you're going to be all right. Know that you have the ingenuity to figure it out. And I believe that we all do. I believe we all have it. I just don't think that most people have ever built the confidence, put themselves into those situations where they can do that. I thrive on this challenge. And I remember reading something somewhere that said, you have this thing, some people call it stress, right? Stress, like how are you feeling? I'm busy, I'm stressed. It's this pit in your stomach, this churning, this, if you think about physically how stress feels, it's like your shoulders are tight. That thing could also be perceived as challenge, and it could be perceived as an obstacle and an excitement. I mean, it's the same thing as like you're a weightlifter, or you're a marathon runner, or you engage in any kind of like adrenaline sport. Yeah, that's stress, but it's a different kind of stress. Or really, it's not different. It's just perceived differently. It's a kind of stress that people go after because it's a stress that makes you better. It's a stress that improves you. And that's what I get out of running a startup. I get constant learning. I get improving at things like leadership and working with people and developing skills that I never thought I would have had to learn ever in a million years. And it's never boring. And it's always exciting, sometimes so exciting that it's hard to sleep. That's why I do what I do. And sure, there are other people that do it for other reasons, more selfish reasons. And of course, take it all for granted that we have an amazing team that gets me excited to wake up every morning and come into the office, and that we have a truly unique product that only we can, build, that we are uniquely situated to build. And education, of course, needs to be disrupted. And there are millions of people all over the world who value this stuff, and all we need to do is find a home. And if we can find that home, we can truly change the world through 1 month. But I think if I didn't get those things that I just mentioned out of doing what I was doing, then it would be too hard. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you have this craftsman mentality, this idea that you want to be improving yourself, then the startup, it's the only route. I mean, consider the idea of like getting an MBA versus working at a startup, which is a debate that I've got involved in recently, and it's something I considered for myself too. I thought about applying to Stanford for an MBA program. What's going to happen there? You're going to spend 2 years. You're going to pay $200,000 or more, and you're going to come out of it with a degree. And what you're going to study there is case studies, right? Depending on the school. Harvard Business School does case studies. They study business situations, and what you do is you kind of dissect how to deal with it, right? And how you would respond to it. It's kind of like project-based or like practical learning, except the problem is a case study it's a simplification. It only shows part of the picture. It's, as maybe Ben Horowitz would say, that's the easy thing about the hard thing. It's not the hard thing about the hard thing. And if you're only ever studying those case studies, what you're missing out on is the nuance of the situation. It's the people. It's the information that you're not aware of. It's your own biases, your own stresses. It's the whole holistic picture. And you can never learn that in business school. And so when I thought about going back to business school, or just starting a startup myself, or starting my own online business, it was kind of a no-brainer that the best way to learn is to start something yourself and to build something yourself. And the kind of problems I'll run into are the kind that I never would have anticipated. And the speed at which I will learn to solve those problems, even if I fail, is going to be so much faster than going back to do it in school. And the best thing is you don't end up with $200,000 of student debt. Right? I mean, ideally, you start a business, you get funding, you get to pay yourself. Investors cover the cost of your education. How cool is that? Plus, another thing that I found out recently is that for entrepreneurs who take more than 2 years off of their job to start a company, when they end their company, even if their company fails, and if they go back to the regular workforce, for those entrepreneurs, they get paid more than they would have if they had just stayed in the job. They get paid more than their counterparts who didn't start companies got paid. And that's because the set of experiences you get are so unique and so valuable, and you really create something unique for yourself and a unique story. I really think starting a business is the future of education. So that's what I do. That's why I do what I do. And if you want to start a business, I would love to talk to you. And I'd love to talk to you about all of the things that you need to learn when you're starting a business. That's why I do this series, Founder Friday. If you have any other questions for me, I'm always collecting questions to answer every week in Founder Friday. Post them below or send an email to founderfriday@onemonth.com and I will answer your question. Thanks for following and hope you have a good week.